Everyone, it is just now noon. I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, and this is the Saturday live session where I try to answer questions from Augies all over the world. Augies being derived from the OG logo that I have, so those who follow OG are Augies. Let's see, channel announcements. I guess I should point out that if I really do get to go to Quartzsite, which I really hope is possible, I will not be doing a live stream on the 19th or the 26th, since we will be traveling on those days. The things that could keep us from going to Quartzsite are two. One, we have tremendous amount of snow. We're getting more snow as I speak. Very bad for the antenna testing business. And also I did something to my shoulder, so hopefully that will calm down by the time we're ready to go. Putting the trailer and the truck together is a physically demanding process, so I'm going to have to figure out how to do that without making my shoulder worse. So here we are. Let's see what we've got in the way of people coming in. Let's see, Rick, Reese Simmons, Bob62, N8 from exotic southeast Michigan, who wishes he's going to Quartz Fest. Jerry Wick is trying to remember what he wants to ask me today. WB3BJU is there. Good morning, Dave. Received your email. Will do. DX Winter Sale next Saturday. He's going to take some pictures for me. Good afternoon from Al. Reese enjoys the channel. Shannon says hello. Stefan from Denmark, OZ7STM. And from the Netherlands, Papa Hotel 2, Lima Bravo. Terry Morris, Tom Keddy, Pope Duffy, Jason, Jody Laney says hello to everybody. David Gerling, watching from the UK, G4POT. That'd be a good call sign in California now. They've legalized pot out there. Mark Strawcutter from Western Pennsylvania. Scott Pallas from Illinois. Don Goldsmith. North Be True. Wimso, PA3GTL in the Netherlands, Reese Simmons, Ryan Ward. I need to get on the air more. He wants to work me on the air. I just need to get on the air more. Daniel W4LSX has a question and will send it. Your extra class videos, I know you offer them on a thumb drive. Could we request one on a micro SD? I'll have to look at the pricing on micro SD cards, but don't see why not. Hi, Dave John in Cornwall, Marconi County, cool. Solar setup in his go-to home. Maybe you'll see it at Quartz Fest, I hope so. John in New York, Silver Dollar, and Ray Blackburn says thanks for what you've taught me. I'm very grateful for that. Larry Weed, Bill Lynch, VD9A3GVD from Croatia. That's 9A3GVD. Darren Record. Boy, they keep coming in. Look at all of them there. Wow, lots of people who have checked in. We've got 84 at this point. Okay, the first item of business I wanted to do was there was a request made for the log stamp. This is, let me get this up here, desktop. Okay, this is, I have to move it over just a little bit, there. I have a stamp that creates an entry in an ordinary notebook for a log. This is the stamp. Gwen Patton, N3GP, has recreated that image, so it's now up on my website. You can just go to my website, dcastler.com, right now because it's the very first item up there. But it will be at dcastler.com/log dash or hyphen stamp hyphen images. Okay, and this is that stamp right here. I had this made, oh gosh, it must have been 25 years ago now, and I can just put it in an ordinary logbook or notebook like this, and there I'm ready for the next QSO. So this is a stamp I've used to turn ordinary notebooks into logbooks for a long time. Anyway, it is now available on my website. Again, there is the picture. So I'm going to cut to the display capture, and you can see here the stamp and how you just go like that, and you can turn a piece of paper into your logbook, or like the way I've done it here, I have just an ordinary spiral bound notebook that I stamp that in there to make sure I capture the call, the start and stop times, the RSTs, the frequency, and the mode. It does not have a spot for the date, so you've got to put the UTC date there too. So that's that one, and that's let's see, we want this one here. Okay, need an assistant to operate this thing. Well, the questions have been coming in. These are the ones from the first half of January. Well, actually up through today, so it's less than the first half of January. Let me get back to where I can see comments. Let's see. New Year from Bavaria, Croatia, Germany, Netherlands, Alabama, Nebraska, Florida, IU. I think that's Italy, I'm not sure. Can you explain how you go about applying for Vanity call sign in detail? Well, step number one is for the government to get back in action, because the FCC is closed right now. But you apply for Vanity call sign to them. I've not done it. KE0OG was issued to me. I'll have to take a look at that and see what I can come up with. From K9EWG, we worked in FT8 very well. Benefit, let's see. How are the N0 NBH propagation stats calculated? You know, I don't know. You'd have to ask him. You can probably find his email on QRZ. Okay. Stamp template for a notebook. Yeah. Can I get by with one counterpoise wire for each band on a vertical? If not, what is the minimum? The normal minimum for an elevated vertical is 2 radials, rather than counterpoises. Radials for each band, tuned. So you'd have 2 for 40, 2 for 30, 2 for 20, and so on, depending on, I'm assuming you have a multi-band vertical, like my HF9V or something like that. I am told that verticals mounted up somewhat off the ground perform better. You can get those radials in there, get them tuned, get them just right. Mine happens to be ground mounted, and all of the radials are out on the ground. Rubber stamp. Okay, cool. All right, let's go to the first. We have 102 people on. This is the first question. This is from Carl Webster, Alpha Bravo 1 Zulu India. Okay. I have a multi-mode 2-meter radio. And what he means by multi-mode is it's not just FM. A lot of the VHF equipment is just FM. Most handhelds are just FM, or a digital mode like DMR or D-Star or C4 IFM, whatever. Wondering how to call CQ on single sideband and CW. Well, there are frequencies. You'd have to look at the band plan. The frequencies for this anything not FM is called weak signal mode. Okay, you call CQ just like you'd call CQ on HF, just using the CQ. I know on FM the practice is to just state that you're listening. But on single sideband and CW, you'd call CQ just like you would. But the problem is, people who work weak signals on 2 meters use just certain frequencies. Let's see. I'm going to try to look up here on the desktop. 2 meter SSB frequencies. Okay, here we go. We've got a bit of an answer. When and where to operate, single sideband portion runs from 144.1 to 144.275. The 2 meter calling frequency is 144.200. Okay, so there's the answer to your question. Where do you go to call CQ? Okay, now, given that you're on 2 meters, it might be a good idea to broadcast in advance, like to members of your club or people you know who work 2 meter CW, to see if you can meet them on the air there. Okay, let's go back to our live dashboard. Do I have a favorite mobile HF antenna? I don't. I don't operate HF mobile. That's a whole nother thing in itself. Thanks to Kevin for answering the question on the call sign. Made a 40-20 fan dipole with no balun. It's doing well. Attempted to add some 10 meter legs to it, and they just will not tune up. Yeah, that's a problem with fan dipoles. They can be stinkers to tune. You now note that, well, they should work, but you've now got 3 different segments to tune, and they all affect each other. So, are the undriven elements of Yagi isolated from the boom or mounted directly in the boom? Usually mounted directly on the boom, but not always. The boom being perpendicular to the Yagi doesn't really affect the performance of the Yagi. Have I worked Vermont yet? I think so. Well, I know I have. I have all 50 states with QSL cards, but I don't have it with the new logbook of the world. Let's just take a look at my logbook. Here we go. Okay, here's my logbook. Now I can go into for awards. Well, this thing's moving with lightning speed. States, counties. And we go up here and okay, states. I have worked Vermont on Logbook of the World. It's right there. Okay? So thank you for the opportunity. Vermont is always a hard one for people to work. Let me get back over here. Okay. Doing great work. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. I appreciate that. Okay, let's continue this. This was the one on the 2 meter radios. Okay. Here's a fellow trying to set up a packet station. There is a packet infrastructure in the United States. It is not used much. It was all the rage 30 years ago. Planning on using a tower site with an antenna up 500 feet. Well, if you're going to go 500 feet on 2 meters, you better find a way to get that radio a lot closer to the antenna. Motorola Max Track, been trying to get a BBS put on Linux Mint install for that purpose. Searched several links trying to download linbpq to get file not found. Any ideas of where I could get a good copy to install? Search some repositories with no luck at all. Try searching Google just with the name Lin BPQ. See what you can find. Also, go to Tapper. Let's TAPR is the Tucson area packet radio. Now they've probably changed their name a little bit, but www.tapr.org, they are the originators of most of packet technology, and they should be able to answer your questions and find copies of that file for you. Okay, yeah, the Tucson area packet radio group has since moved into, mesh networking and all of these kinds of exotic things that are going on and are quite hot right now in ham radio. Okay, this is from Marius Luby, and he says, thanks for the helpful videos. I have a question does not seem to be discussed, and he says he feels a bit stupid, as if everyone knows the secret except me. Don't. Believe me. I've been in your position many times, and on some subjects in ham radio, I still am. So one of the reasons I'd like to go to Quartz Fest is kind of broaden my horizons a little bit, find some of the things I haven't been talking about. How does the meter and centimeter band naming relate to the frequencies? Okay. Let's put this diagram under the camera. Okay, this chart is available for download at the ARRL website. This shows the different U.S. amateur bands. Okay, all the way up to 1300 megahertz, including the low frequencies ones down here, 135.7 kilohertz. The bands are referred to by their meter. The meter is the wavelength. These numbers are approximate, okay? Wavelength and frequency are inversely related, so not every number in there can be 40 meters. They're quite different. In fact, on the 80 meter band, usually the low end is called 80 meters, and often the up end is called 75 meters. So these are names that have been associated with the bands since, for 100 years or more, and it used to be that wavelengths were what was specified instead of frequency, but that is no longer true. We specify the frequency, and then the band name just sort of goes with it. Now you asked about 2 meters. 2 meters, can I get this closer? Yeah, 2 meters right there goes from 144 to 148 megahertz. Okay, that's called 2 meters. And I don't know what to say other than tradition is why they're called that. Let's see. Yeah, the shorter the wavelength, the higher the frequency. So it says 2 meters is somewhere around VHF. It's 144 to 148. 70 centimeters seems to be higher in the UHF spectrum. It is in the UHF spectrum. It's 420 megahertz to 450. Uh, 450. 420 to 450. It's one of the widest bands that hams have, and so you'll see wideband kind of stuff up there, like amateur television and so on. Also, You can't use spread spectrum on the lower bands, but you can up there on those. Some people do that. Okay, please, can you help me? It's in Cape Town, South Africa, and he's going to start his classes the end of January for 6 weeks, and then a 90-question exam. Woo! Okay. Very good. He's been a shortwave listener and wants to become a ham, and will be doing so in South Africa. So, Mars, short for Marius, Mars, good luck to you in all of your studies. I hope the videos, the tutorial videos that I have are helpful. By the way, someone asked how to find them. This is how you find the tutorial videos for tech. ke0og.net/training. Okay, for general, ke0og.net/general. And for extra, ke0og.net/extra. Now you ask, why didn't I name this technician? Because at the time I was doing it, I wasn't thinking of even doing these other ones. That came after I did this. So it's training, general, extra. Now what you will find at that is lists of videos. Let's go to the desktop and go to ke0og.net, and you'll note as we move with lightning speed here, boy, you know, Windows has been putting out updates, and they seem to be slowing my computer down. You'll notice over here in the right hand column there is the Technician General Extra. Let's just go to the Tech. Okay, and it's got a video that talks about the newest manual, and then it's got a list here of the videos. And if you click on one of these, like section 3.1 electricity, by the way, the videos are numbered the same way the book is, or at least that's the intent. We're in the process of going through these. I've hired a new assistant, Julian Wanberger, and he is going through these and helping make sure that they're all updated. But you click for like section 3.1, there's a video to get you through that section, and that video is on YouTube there. So, okay.
I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio.
Out of that, and now there's a similar list here for the general. Okay, woo. Something got doubled up there. Okay, get that fixed. And then amateur extra. We've got amateur extra also. Now with the amateur extra, there is also you can purchase all of these on a thumb drive. They're all free, of course, to view on YouTube, but if you want, some people find it convenient to get them on a single thumb drive. So I've got a spot here where you can buy them. Oh, I didn't put the price right there. I should. It's $49.99 postpaid anywhere in the U.S. And if you're outside the country, email me and I'll check on postage rates. Some postage rates are just out of this world right now. Okay, let's go back to that. All right, and I want to go back to the live dashboard. And then, okay, how wide is my rubber stamp? That wide? My ruler isn't where it's supposed to be. What would you say, 4.5 inches, 5 inches? something like that. Hello from Seattle. Can a good ground be multi-purpose for such things as amateur CB, swill, shortwave listening, antennas, etc.? Yes, absolutely. The ground can. The distance RF wave travels in free air from 0 degrees to 0 degrees is the measurement in meters, centimeters, versus the time measurement. That's almost correct. It's actually the distance the RF wave travels in a vacuum. However, the wavelength is only a tiny bit difference in air. Wonder if Trevor got his tech ticket. I doubt it. I'm working on Julian, though. MS Windows will update, will now reserve 7. Yeah, okay. The videos on thumb drive, good deal. Thank you. Augies, yes, absolutely. Okay, well, we're not getting through these very fast, are we? They're stacking up. This is on RF grounding from W3MT. Michael, Toronto. Okay, my shack is currently located down in the basement. Here I have absolutely no RF problem. However, I'm tired of freezing down here every winter. Upstairs, I have an unused bedroom that's nice and cozy, so we're on the second floor. First floor for the Brids. Man, would love to move my station up there, but I hesitate because it's on the second floor and I run a 1200 watt amp. I'm afraid of the real possibility of RF on my signal up here, so my question is, what would you recommend? I recommend the same thing. You run your cables, preferably inside, but if you can't do it, run outside all the way to the ground where you have a lightning arrestor, and then from there to your antenna. I have a friend, Lou French, who's in exactly the same situation you are, and he has, because he lives on a city lot, has to put his antennas pretty close to where he's operating, and he's able to do that successfully. So he does run them all the way to the ground and then back up. Okay. Okay, email the JPEG. Yeah. Yeah, it's a little wide. I've got it full size on my website. I should get some dimensions. I'll put them up there. Okay, so yes, do run the grounding just like you would before. If you have ground loops or something like that, move things around, see what you can do. Usually the problem with ground loops has to do with the physical configuration. This is from Joe Clifton, KN4KDZ. I was considering a 43-foot vertical, probably from DX Engineering. There's also available from MFJ. They recommend 32 to 65-foot radials. Do they have to be tuned? No, because they're laying on the ground. These 43-foot verticals are ground mounted. No, they don't have to be tuned. Should I use the MFJ 2910 matching network with this antenna? Let's find out what that is. Let's see, that's not the one. We want to go to desktop. Okay, we're going to go in here to look up the MFJ 2910, and this is it. This is a 60 and 80 meter matching network for vertical. So this is not a tuner. This is not a tuner. You know what I would do? I would... Okay, it's for the 43-foot all-band antennas. You're getting your vertical from DX Engineering. I would ask them what they recommend. I don't have one of those 43-foot verticals. They don't do well on the upper bands. They'll do well on 80, 40, maybe 30 and 20, but you go up from there and they really lose efficiency. Okay, this one is from Andrew Yakush WZ6J. Hello, Dave. Could you explain the A index and K index and how they relate to HF propagation? Which do you want high and which do you want low for best propagation? That would require a separate video, so I'm going to set this aside for a video. The League has a couple interesting books on HF propagation out there. They're rather technical. They're fun to read. Good stuff. So the A and K indices are a numerical index related to the sun or solar activity. Okay, and they are used in propagation software to predict how well a radio link will perform. So, yes, I'll take a look at that in a video. I did a video on propagation at one point, but it was very general. I've since learned a lot more about propagation and would like to try that. Let's see. Okay. Does the placement of... We're up to 121 people. Good. Does the placement of an air choke on an antenna line matter? Yes. Put it as close to the antenna as you can. Okay? It goes... The air choke is... You take several loops of coax put together, and that acts as a choke balun, and you put it right at the antenna. Okay. Save the rubber. Okay. Email me the JPEG to put on the website. What would you recommend if someone wanted to use HF? That's requiring an antenna that could be large, but they live in an apartment. From Lima, Norway, 4 Kilo Charlie Sierra. That is a problem. Always has been a problem. Always will be a problem. Some people in Europe really swear by magnetic loops. I have a couple. I don't really like them because as you tune your radio around, you have to tune the antenna around. The MFJ loop seems to not be worried about that. MFJ also has a balcony antenna that has a sort of a hamstick-ish sort of thing, like a mobile antenna with a long counterpoise wire. That works for some people if you've got a balcony. There's no really good answer. And a lot of modern apartment buildings, especially in the big cities, are made with lots of concrete and rebar, which makes them pretty good Faraday cages. I don't have a good answer for you, but except one word, and that is persevere. Don't give up. Persevere. See what you can do. Okay, tips for radio lengths, 33 feet, 25 feet, and 12 feet. Okay, yeah, that should probably work. Is external power supply worth it for the MFJ 259C, or should I just stick with the batteries? Well, I will tell you what I do. I use this as my station 12-volt supply. It's a BioNO battery. It's 12 volts. It's this lithium iron phosphate chemistry, which gives about the same amount of energy storage as a lead acid battery at 1/4 the weight. They're also appropriately more expensive, but I use this with my MFJ. The problem with the MFJ, I think it takes C cells, which are expensive. And so I put a set of C cells, no, wait a minute, AAA, yeah, whatever it takes. It takes a lot of them. And when I first got the thing new, I put a set of batteries in there. My wallet went ouch. And so when those batteries were done, I went to using the external supply. It's just a lot easier to do. Okay. How does HF propagation differ from an aeronautical mobile to a ground station? Propagation is propagation. However, an aeronautical mobile is actually running VHF. And it's line of sight direct. An aeronautical mobile to a ground station, I'm thinking in an airplane, it's AM. It's AM because FM you have a capture effect. So the strongest signal comes through, which means a weak signal can get ignored. Whereas on AM you can hear both signals at the same time. And that's helpful for air traffic controllers to know that there's someone else in there. If I mount a 30-foot vertical in my house, how do I put radials out? From the bottom. Of course, the radials are mounted to the shield of the cable, and the antenna itself is mounted to the center conductor. By the way, verticals have an impedance of about 30 ohms. It is possible to put together balance for those things to get it up to 50. Otherwise, you're only going to get about a 1.6 to 1 SWR at the best, which is good. It's perfectly good. Okay, Kyle has to get off to work. 10 AA cells, says Don. Yes, 10. No hams who operate 20 meters in the air. Okay. Propagation, you're going to get a lot of line of sight, which is not normally there at HF if you're up there in the air. You can buy rechargeable AA batteries that last a long time. True, you can. I just opted to go with a big rechargeable battery. Okay, this one is from David J. Gonzalez, and he doesn't give a call sign. I have a question about the resistance values given for coax. Why do the spec sheets give a resistance without specifying it per length? For example, when I look at specs for LMR 240, it lists the resistance as 50 ohms, is not 50 ohms per foot. Okay, you're confusing impedance, which is the ratio of the voltage to the current as a wave travels through the coax. That's the impedance. It is usually, we like 50 ohms. That's the ratio between the voltage and the current as it travels through there. The resistance has to do with the piece of copper in the middle. Okay, and that is in ohms, actually milliohms per foot. They're two different things. So the 50 is impedance. And we call it the characteristic impedance because any coax built to that size, the characteristic impedance is strictly a function of the dimensions of the coax. Ham radio has used 50 ohms since World War II, okay, when a lot of surplus coax became available. So I hope that helps answer the question. It's not resistance, it's not dissipating any energy. So it's impedance, it's complex by nature, complex numbers, that sort of thing. And has to do with the ratio of the voltage to current inside the cable. And it's characteristic for a given size. LMR 240 is 50 ohm cable, LMR 400 is 50 ohm cable, RG8 and RG8X are both 50 ohm cable, RG213 is 50 ohm cable. I have a roll of LMR 240, and frankly it's a royal pain to put connectors on. I should have gotten a roll of RG213, but we all learn by doing. It was an expensive mistake. I think I spent $500 on that roll. Okay, he uses nickel metal hydride. Better off ground mounting the 30-foot vertical? I don't think so. If you can get it up in the air, then just run the radials from right where the base is on the antenna. If you have a composition roof, like most people do, asphalt shingles, you can lay those radials just right down on the roof if they're insulated, okay? And if not, you want to kind of pull them out a little bit. Energizer Recharger 269 Pro, that's about 4 months in a single charge, uses it several times a week. And Al Armad passed the tech test today. Congratulations to you. Congrats. Welcome to ham radio. Any plans to do a net on HF? Someday, yeah. And was on 60 and it was open today. You know, I have never had a QSO on 60 meters. Of course, I haven't tried very hard either. I don't have an antenna for it. None of the antennas, the multiband antennas that are sold commercially, have 60 meters, so you have to put up a dipole. Any thoughts on RG400? Let's go to Google. Oh, did I have that silly screen up the whole time? Let's go to Google. What was it? RG400? RG400 Coax specification. Yeah, there we go. It's, oh, that's that little tiny thing, isn't it? Impedance 50 ohms. Maximum voltage 1900 volts RMS. That should say RMS. Maximum frequency 12 gigahertz. That's that little bend radius of only 1 inch. That is tiny cable. The problem with that, and it doesn't show it here, is that the loss, it's a lossy coax. It's quite lossy. This little coax is used for like moving a signal from point A to point B inside a chassis, so it's only that long, and the losses are not going to show up at that length. I would not use that as something to run to an antenna because of the losses. Okay, let's go back to where I can see the dashboard. 4-to-1 or 9-to-1 balun, how do I work out how many turns of wire to use on each side? Okay, take the square root. Because the balance, you're changing impedance, and a transformer changes the voltage, but the current changes too. So you're going to have to take the square root. So 9-to-1 balun would be 3-to-1 turns, I think. You know, don't take my word for that. I have a video on balance. Go back and look at that, because I think I got it right on that. DX Engineering only have AGM batteries. Where did you get the lithium-ion battery? Okay, look up BioNO. BioNO Power. They sell these in many different sizes. I picked that one up at the Dayton Hamvention. They're not cheap. That one cost me $100. Yeah, the FCC is closed during the shutdown, and what is the difference between RG213 and RG213U? I think they're the same thing. For balance, there's formulas online. That is true. Okay. This next one comes from NM1 Zulu. Bob. Okay, he is Director of Engineering and Operations and the Chief Engineer of WAND-TV. Your FCC bombshell on Chinese handhelds and interpretations are probably wrong. Well, the ARRL agrees that the interpretations are wrong, because that, I don't have it in here. I don't have it here. The FCC sent out a public notice saying that these VHF radios, like the cheap Baofengs and so on, could operate outside the ham bands, therefore hams couldn't use them. The ARRL begs to disagree. So in the meantime, I'm using mine. Then he goes on to say this is basically a response to the FCC, saying that, yeah, I know, I agree with what you say, Bob. That is not the position of the FCC. It is the position of the league. The league's position is if you have a radio that can operate on the ham bands, it may operate other places too, but if it can operate on the ham bands and we use it and stay in the ham bands, we're fine. So it's this continuing thing going back and forth between the FCC. I do not have any update beyond that. Here's from Greece, Sierra Victor 2, Charlie Tango Victor. Okay, Barnacle Brad, Biano Power. Is low-loss coax very beneficial used to short-link jumpers between tuner switches and light? Sure, it's hard to work with. My jumpers are RG8X, mostly. Although for my amplifier, a lot of the jumpers, because it's got to go from the amplifier to the SWR to my antenna switch and then out. All but one of those are LMR 400. The one very short jumper, it's only about 18 inches long, that goes between the amplifier and the SWR sensor is RG8X. And RG8X can handle the power. It does have a little bit higher loss, but I'm not worried about it. Let's see, LMR is what I use for everything. Hardline for anything else. Yeah, it is low loss. It is very low. And thank you, Theo, for your kind words. We have 129 watching. That is a record, by the way. We were up to 127 last time. Okay, the meaning of CPS. I keep looking up to look at the time. Got a clock right here on the computer, but I've got this very nice wall clock. I'll show you that I have up there. I love mechanical timepieces. They're just cool. That's an actual mechanical 30-day clock that I picked up, of all places, Harbor Freight Tools. It was in one of their catalogs. You know, Harbor Freight Tools deals in surplus, and somehow they got hold of some of those several years ago, and I bought one. It was not very expensive. It was $60 or $70. And I love mechanical clocks. So why would I love mechanical clocks when I also have right over here this one from QRP Labs is a GPS clock. It listens to GPS and tells me the GPS time. GPS time is not civilian time, it's military time, but the military time, which comes out of the U.S. Naval Observatory, and the civilian time, which comes out of National Institute of Standards and Technology in Boulder, are kept continually within tiny fractions of a nanosecond of each other. So one time is as good as another for all but the most abstruse scientific processes. But anyway, it's nice to have it right here because I have it set to UTC, so when I work on the radio, I can just glance up there and see what the exact time is. My watch is quartz. I like to keep it within a minute. The mechanical clocks I like to keep within a few minutes, and that GPS clock I expect to be dead on. Oh, we were up to 131 for a while. Okay, gotta. People have to head out for work and so on. Let's see. Understand the FCC address prohibits public use encryption. Yes. What about scrambling wave inversion? No. You can't do that. In the United States, this is not true in other countries. This is not true in Canada. But in the United States, the meaning of your communication must be clear to anyone listening, including the FCC. And so, using RIDI, PSK31, and so on, using the standard codes, you're okay. But if you obscure the meaning of your messages in the United States, that is not okay. Okay. Meaning of CPS from Mark Strawcutter. One of your recent videos, I think you explained CPS as an acronym for Consumer or Customer Programming Software. That is what Anytone calls it. So several weeks ago I asked in one of the Islands HD1 online forum what it means and got a response: code plug software. Well, it certainly does that, although the Anytone, and I think the Islands HD1, both do the same thing. The software can program the code plug, which is all the frequencies and settings and so on. And then there's one other thing it can program. They have a very large database inside where you can put lists of essentially everybody who has a DMR ID in there. So if you hear somebody calling or listening, their name and call sign and location will pop up right on your radio. It's a really cool feature of DMR. Is it code plug software? Is it customer programming software? Having worked in aerospace all my life, you start with a name and you usually build the name so it ends up in a cool acronym of some kind. And then the acronym takes on a life of its own. Thinking RAID. The term RAID used with disk used to mean a redundant array of inexpensive disks. And that's what it was. But now it's taken to mean redundant array of independent disks. So they kept the same acronym, but the inexpensive no longer applied, so people changed the meaning of it. It's just what happens. It says both seem reasonable. He says, I don't know which one is truth. I suspect they both are. People just call it CPS. CPS is the old abbreviation for cycles per second, which has been replaced by hertz. Okay, we've got what is NASA says, so is it flat or not? I don't get that one. WWV, yes. Dave, what is a good HF base transceiver for a first timer? Randy, the choice of a radio is highly personal. I will also guarantee you pretty much that your first radio will not be your last. You will change radios. I've had a number of radios in my amateur radio career. I've got an FTDX 3000 right now, which replaced a Tentec Jupiter, which replaced a Yaesu FT747, which replaced a Drake something, which replaced a Yaesu FT201. I would say this about base transceivers for first timer. 100 watts. Don't go with any of the QRP rigs. 100 watts. Okay. There are great starter radios made by Yaesu. I know Yaesu makes the FT450, which a lot of people really enjoy. It's a straightforward radio with excellent capabilities. The FT991 is a step up. If you're willing to learn the extra features, you could go there. ICOM has, was it the 718? I think it's their current entry-level radio. I'm not sure I'd recommend jumping to an ICOM 7300 right away, but some people have tried that. It's a complex radio, and I don't recommend complexity for the beginner, but if you want to start there, you can. Kenwood is suddenly becoming active again with its HF transceivers, and the TS2000 has been out for a long time. The architecture in it is getting kind of old. But you could look around in there. I would say either the ICOM or the Yaesu. Alinco makes an HF radio. Not very sophisticated. It's not really designed for hams. It's designed for, a fishing boat that needs HF, and they don't want to diddle with settings and so on. So, anyway, there's my 2 cents worth. By the way, I'm not sponsored by any of those manufacturers. I'm not sponsored by anybody right at the moment. So if you know of some organization like DX Engineering or some company like Elecraft that'd like to sponsor me, I'd be delighted. Let them know. Okay, people are having to go. Sounds like things are happening. We're up to 131 right now. IC 7300 was my first rig, and I love it. Okay, there you go. Have the FT450 and it works great. For first radio, what mode you want to work? Single sideband. I'm assuming general. Okay, how much power does China need to relay its probe on the moon back to Earth, and is it possible? Absolutely, it is possible. The Russians have done it. The Americans have done it. They have to have a relay satellite to get that data back. We've done it to the moon, to Mars, so it can definitely be done to the moon. Look up Goldstone Tracking Station to get an idea of the size of the antennas they use. Spend your silver on a radio and your gold on an antenna. Yeah. Do not neglect the antenna. You can start with like a 40-meter dipole as a good first antenna and start getting some contacts, getting your feet wet on the air, and then go from there. Don't try to build your dream station first time out of the box, because in 10 years your thinking of what's a dream station will change. Do I know XUNES? No, I don't. Okay, NASA says. Let's see, we've got about 4 minutes left here. Rick Nalesnik, N3SJP, says, Dr. Soldering, I saw your video on Dr. Soldering and asked the best way. Well, I am a ROT. I don't know. That's a really old tech. Worked for RCA Factory Service, GERCA, then TCE, Sony, and finally Zenith. Boy, those are names that Zenith is long gone. I will tell you what I have been doing for 50 years. I use a 100-watt chisel, 2 and solder wick. Yes, 100 watts. I'll tell you why it works so good without damaging the board. If you're really fast, you can do it. Yes. You don't want to keep that on that joint for very long at all. The soldering system that I use is a temperature-controlled device. I got it... trying to remember if I bought it. Anyway, I use it for soldering. It's temperature controlled, and I do run the temperature up quite a bit. And you have to use the right tip. If I'm soldering coax, I need a great big tip that will hold lots of heat. If I'm soldering things like surface mount devices, I use a very, very thin tip. Soldering is quite an interesting activity. I've been learning how to unsolder too. Okay, we've got time for like one or two more. This is from Reese Simmons. Just got my tech permit. Can you tell me a cheap HF radio and power supply? Well, if you just got your tech, my recommendation is to go ahead and get your general, and then get yourself one of the entry-level HF radios I'm talking about. If you are talking about using Morse code on HF, which you can right out of the box, I'd recommend, where'd it go? Here it is. This right here is a radio that I'm quite enthralled by. This is from QRP Labs, called the QCX. And it's a Morse code single band. I have it for 40, which is the band I'd recommend. And it's about 5 watts, okay? And 5 watts on CW to a full-size antenna will net you contacts, okay? And I would recommend very much that you as a general, or you as a tech, would actually get on and try the code on HF. It's pretty good. Okay, will I be at Dayton this year? I do not know. I was at Dayton last year. What technique do you recommend to desolder? They make braid. Get some flux. I don't have it right here. Get a little can of flux. You can go to Home Depot and buy flux in a little can. Make sure it's rosin flux. It'll say for electrical use. Do not use acid flux. Use rosin flux. A tiny tiny bit of flux goes a long way. But you take like a pinhead, pull a little bit of rosin on there, spread it on the braid and on the joint, put that braid down there, press a soldering iron on it, and it'll suck up the solder like crazy. The magic comes in the slight use of rosin. I can't get it to work any other way. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Streams and videos, what's the best time to hear me on 20 meters? I need to get on the air more. What coax do you recommend for most hammings running 100 watts and about 100-foot run? RG8X. Hello from N3DX. I'm working QCX now. Cool. It's neat. It's not necessarily an easy thing to put together. RG213 is good. Yes, it's not as low loss as some of the cables, but it's very close. Having problems soldering a wire for COS, trying to build an all-star node. Make sure the wires are all copper. If you've got steel wires in there or something like that, you're going to have real trouble soldering them. Soldering doesn't work on steel or something like that. Solder wick or vacuum desolder iron. Yes, I have one of those too. There's an art to using those too. Okay, we're going to... Now this one from Reese Simmons. It's my cheap HF radio and power supply. Power supply. I use this one right here. This is a PowerWorks power supply. Okay, it's the SS30DV, and it's a venerable power supply design. It was designed. It's a switching power supply. It's designed for radio, so it's very RF quiet and a nice little power supply. Okay, we still have all these. Hopefully, we'll be getting caught up. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, to like the video. Please comment. YouTube loves to count comments and how much people like. Now, in the subscribing, a subscription is just a vote of confidence in a channel. You're telling YouTube, hey, this is really worth something. If you subscribe and click the bell, then you will get an email notification of new videos or whenever a live chat starts. Let's see what else. Of course, go to dcasler.com/support, and there you will find the tip jar, the Patreon, the Amazon page where you can order things from Amazon, and I get a little bit of a finder's fee, and it doesn't cost you any more. And then there is one other thing. Oh, the extra videos on thumb drives, or I will look into the cost of the little SD drives. Okay, thank you all very much, and 73 to everybody. It's been a lot of fun talking with you today. I really enjoy these Saturday things. Again, the next 2 weeks are travel days for me, so there will not be a live stream until 3 weeks from now. So 73s, I hope to see people at Quartzsite. I hope to get there, and looking very much forward to seeing you. Thank you, Augies Worldwide, and 73.